so together, discussing the value of LinkedIn for engaging and networking. So I hope you all have had your afternoon tea or coffee. This is going to be a jam-packed session. But by way of introduction, as Gavin mentioned, my name is Desiree, and I manage the customer relationships with LinkedIn at a local and state government level, and I've been at LinkedIn for 3 years now. So what we're going to be going through today is similar to a program that we run at LinkedIn called Rock Your Profile, and it's designed to help educate members and customers on how to build a profile that tells your professional story and connects you to opportunity on LinkedIn. After speaking with Gavin and understanding more about your network and what you're trying to achieve, I was really compelled to broaden that program and help you understand the impact of LinkedIn on our economy and on our world. So I must preface, I'm in no way a LinkedIn expert. My primary product knowledge sits with our hiring and learning tools, and my knowledge about the LinkedIn platform is more high level because of the way that it influences those tools. However, feel free, as Gavin said, to use the chat box for any questions, and I'll do my best to pause throughout and answer them for you, or direct you towards helpful resources. And in the spirit of keeping things interactive, I'll also be doing some little pop quizzes throughout. So I'll ask you some questions and you can pop the answers in the chat box just to keep you on your toes. So before we dive in, let me give you a better idea of how we'll be using our time together today and what you can expect from the session. So by the end of today, I'd really like you all to walk away with a better understanding of the LinkedIn platform, how to express your professional and company brand and presence, and how to become a thought leader on LinkedIn. So let's get into it, starting with our vision. LinkedIn's vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. And the way that we realize that vision is through our mission, which is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. It's really our true north and what drives our business. Our products, our decisions internally and externally. And creating opportunity for every member is why LinkedIn staff across Australia and in many different countries where LinkedIn's present come to work or their home office each and every day. LinkedIn's been doing this for the past 18 years. Yesterday was actually our birthday, so I've popped a little cake there and candle. So our first pop quiz, using the chat box, who can guess how many millions of members have a LinkedIn profile today across the globe? Can I get some guesses happening? How many millions of members might we have on LinkedIn across the globe? I'll give you, 300 million, 10 million. Any other guesses? I'll give you a clue. It is 3 digits, million. 300 million is the closest so far. 555, 500, all really great guesses. We have 740 million members that have a LinkedIn profile across the globe. So our LinkedIn platform is made up of millions of members, companies, skills, schools, and jobs, and we call that our economic graph. If you'd like to read a bit more about our economic graph, I put a little link at the top of the presentation for you. You can read more. Of those 740 million members, this is how they're geographically spread across the globe. And we actually gain 3 new members every second. So that number changes quite often, as you can imagine. Governments globally use our near real-time map of the global economy to inform policy. We work with governments across the globe. We work with many different agencies and things like that to use our data to inform. So using the chat box again, who can guess how many millions of members have a LinkedIn profile in Australia? I don't know if anyone caught it from the last slide. Anyone guess how? Yeah, perfect. 11 million is correct. So today, this number is probably more like 11.5 million out of 14 million working professionals across the country, as that number was last updated in November. Broken down even further, we see the current geographic spread across Australia. So we see, Greater Sydney, Greater Melbourne taking up the largest portion. And then we see other, if anyone's interested, that's made up of many locations across Australia with less than 1% representation. We see the vast majority of people highlighting the main city nearest to them instead of their actual suburb on LinkedIn. So for me, my profile says Sydney instead of Mascot. But I encourage you to put your suburb if you're comfortable too, so we can start to really understand that spread even better. Now, third pop quiz. Can anyone guess the top industry that's represented on LinkedIn today? And I'll give you a clue. These people work on job sites. The top industry represented on LinkedIn. Anyone guess what that might be? Tim, you are correct. It is construction. So here we can understand the distribution of LinkedIn members further. You can see the top 18 industries broken down on the left and right. And so one great thing I'll call out about our LinkedIn data is it's updated every 24 hours. When it comes to like ABS data, for example, that typically updates every 3 to 6 months. So yeah, really interesting split there. So that's who we are. But why do members use LinkedIn? So put simply, it's really to connect to opportunity of all different types, right? So thinking about where LinkedIn's been traditionally perceived as a jobs platform, it's now also a publishing platform. People use it not only to network and connect, but to get their daily news. In fact, we see 15 times more engagement with content over job posts, 60% year-over-year growth of action in newsfeed, and 100,000 articles shared each week and 1,200 post shares each minute. So there's a lot going on, a lot of people interacting with each other. Thinking about what you currently use LinkedIn for day to day, as you can see, members come to LinkedIn with the intent to learn from experts, improve their career, search for opportunities, versus platforms like Facebook and Twitter, which are primarily for like entertainment purposes, staying up to date with friends, family, famous people, things like that. With all that's been going on in the digital security and privacy space, particularly in the last year, we're really proud to be the most trusted social network 4 years running. And you'll have to excuse my handiwork there with the graph. The formatting changed in 2020. But yes, 4 years running. LinkedIn's a unique member-first, real identity professional platform. LinkedIn's based from, it's really different to most other platforms in that the content members write and share on LinkedIn becomes a part of their professional identity. So it can be seen by their bosses, it can be seen by colleagues, potential business partners. LinkedIn's a place for professional conversations, and our members tend to respect that context. Now, do we have any questions? So before I move over to, how LinkedIn's used for government, how we can create your own company page and personal brand on LinkedIn, are there any questions around why members use LinkedIn or anything else about LinkedIn before I move on? I'll just give it a minute. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through, so I'm going to take that as moving on. So how do governments use LinkedIn today? Governments globally use LinkedIn for communicating key economic updates, such as most recent COVID responses, as you can see here. We've got Jacinda Ardern, Scott Morrison, Boris Johnson, and many, many more leaders can be found on LinkedIn. Departments and agencies with followings and presence on LinkedIn use the platform to promote industry and economic transformation. So, always great to go and follow those companies, interact with their posts, like their posts, engage with their posts, because that then helps their posts get seen by more and more people, by the people that you connect with as well. Now, switching gears and thinking about your own brand, company, network, brand and presence on LinkedIn, I'm going to spend the next 2 or so minutes talking about what a homepage is, why you'd use one, and then also how to set one up. I understand the majority of you don't have homepages for your networks. I know some use Facebook and things like that. So what a LinkedIn page is, it acts as a voice for your organization on LinkedIn. It helps members learn more about your business, your brand, your products, your services, or job opportunities that you have. To interact, basically, it allows you to interact with members. As an organization, you must have a page. That's kind of like the only way you can represent yourself on LinkedIn. But the great news is homepages are free of charge. So you can absolutely create one, and it's very, very easy. Depending on the size of your company, there are different options you can select. So fewer than 200 employees, more than 200 employees. And if you already have a homepage and you just want to add on some more pages, you can add showcase pages. Or if you're a university, TAFE, college, you can create a page in that way as well. The next up, I'm going to move on to the how-tos and best practices. I just put a little mock-up here for you of how easy it is to set up a company page and what's needed. So setting up your company page won't take more than 5 minutes. I actually put the link on the slide before as well of if you click on that, you can go straight to this page to create a company page. So you'll only need about 5-10 minutes max. And I'm going to show you a video in a moment that goes for about 3 minutes, and it gives you best practices. It's going to give me a little bit of a break from me talking, and I think it's just really nice and visual for you guys to see. So remembering it's got 3 key tips on getting the most out of your page. Sorry, guys. Can I get confirmation, Gavin, you can't hear audio?
Yeah, that's right, Desiree. There's no audio coming through.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, look, you can access the video just as I did on the link. Oops, sorry.
Can we just post the link, perhaps?
Yeah. Let me do that. One moment. I'm not sharing my screen now, am I? Okay, cool. Let me, I'll post the link. Maybe we can, where's the chat gone? So that's the link. Actually, I'll post it to everybody. There we go. So maybe if we can just pause and all watch it together, we'll go for about 3 minutes. I'll just I'll mute myself and stop my video, and I'll come back in 3 minutes time.
Perfect. Thanks, Desiree. I just had a question as to whether the Victorian Food Innovation Network is a company page.
Yes, I did see that. Yes, they do have a company page. It's not called, it's called like something slightly different. So while we're doing that, I'll find it and I'll pop it in the chat for you guys. So I'll give you 3 minutes now for you to just head over and watch that video. Alrighty, now let me share my screen. Okay, so just to reiterate via that video, so a complete page means 30% more weekly page views. Posting daily is a recommendation to establish a real connection with the audience. However, posting weekly, you still see a 2 times lift in engagement. So keeping that as a minimum, I would say, best practice. Including images, videos, or rich media in your posts is a really great idea as well, because it captures people's attention. Review your analytics to understand how visitors are interacting with your brand. You can understand what posts they're finding the most interesting, and what's really standing out. And probably one of the most important things is encouraging your employees to associate with your company page. So if you, basically ensuring that they say on their LinkedIn profile in their description, when they select the company, they select your company page. So it will pop up like the logo that you've chosen on their LinkedIn profile, because that means that when people click on that, they'll go straight to your page. Also, for example, if you have only 5 employees and those 5 employees have 200 connections, that's 1,000 people that your organic audience, that you can essentially reach with your posts without putting money behind advertising. So as long as your staff are interacting with your posts and sharing your posts and things like that, their followers and their connections will see those posts as well. So I hope that makes sense. So, even if you do have a small network and things like that, that's totally fine. Just encouraging that sharing and that social aspect. And one of the great things I'll point out just at the bottom of the page here with LinkedIn is if you have any questions, we literally have videos, tutorials, articles for every product and function available on LinkedIn. And you can just pop into our help section, type out some keywords, find what you're after. And if you can't find what you're after, at the bottom of that page, we've also got like a live chat, so you can speak to somebody from LinkedIn. If you do want to take things to the next level, you can put money behind your posts in the way of targeted advertising. So sponsoring key posts to reach specific audiences or attract people towards following your brand, your page, etc. That is another option. And you can just sort of do that ad hoc, and it's all self-service as well. I've just put a link at the bottom there for you as well. So moving on to your professional brand and your profile, your story. Does anyone have any questions about the company page before I do move on? I don't see any questions in the chat, so if you do, just let me know.
I think the food innovation one, Desiree, will be a good example for people in the context of a community of practice, because all of the engagement points that you are mentioning are really good tips for us all just in our community, the way we operate as communities. So thank you for that. Yeah,
no problem. And so this next section is going to be a bit more about you as individuals. So your LinkedIn profile it's a digital portfolio that represents you and tells your professional story. So think of it less as a resume and more of a dynamic digital portfolio that's engaging, visual, and that highlights your experience and skills to help you build your professional presence. So we'll kick off this section by giving you some best practice recommendations to strengthen those key parts of your LinkedIn profile. I know most of you probably have one already, which is really great. So number 1, a current clear photo with good lighting, high resolution that is just of you. So try to steer clear of somebody being cut out of your photo. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to tell your professional community who you are. You don't have to be wearing corporate attire if that doesn't represent your role. I come from a tech company. Some people from LinkedIn have their profile pictures in their LinkedIn t-shirts because we're just more flexible in that respect. Number 2, location. So really, the more that you add to your profile, the more LinkedIn can understand about you. So when you add your location, you're more likely to be contacted by employers, by recruiters, by things like that about jobs, about initiatives available in your area. Now, the About section. This is where you highlight your unique talents, your passion projects, aspirations. Think about this as your elevator pitch. Keep it short and sweet. No need to list your career accomplishments. That's what the next section's for. So try to talk in the first person as well. That's really important. Now, next, number 4, experience. So detail your work experience, tell your story, talk about accomplishments in each role. This is the conversational aspect of LinkedIn, and it's where you can highlight what you're most proud of, the impact you've had, any change you've created. And please ensure that you are associating each job with a company page on LinkedIn, kind of as I mentioned before. So we don't want to see any grey boxes, but instead logos. So as you can see there. Now, next up, pictures and videos within that experience section. You're able to add further examples of your work via photos, presentations, videos. Second last, education. Highlight where you went to school, university, TAFE, and that's going to actually get you 11 times more profile views, as well as adding volunteering experience, which can get you 6 times more profile views, as well as telling people, the amazing things that you've done and what you're passionate about. Skills and endorsements. Adding at least 5 skills means receiving 17 times more profile views, not just by recruiters, but by professionals all over LinkedIn that search skills. It's a really great way to make connections as well. And I'll point out this section is completely customizable. You don't have to show all of the skills that people have endorsed you for. You can choose what skills get featured and which ones don't. So just make sure that it represents you. Next up, what else can you add? So some further tips here, a background photo as your banner. So this could be something personal, as Claire has chosen to do here, or it could be something corporate to represent your organization. So a logo or just an image of something that represents your organization. And then secondly, you can customize the URL. So that means that it basically is just the thing that people see when they're not signed in, and they can find you through search engines and things like that. So if you've got a really popular name, you can customize your URL to suit. Any questions on personal branding or LinkedIn before I move on? Okay. Fantastic. Keep going. Oh, there we go. Sorry, didn't realize that was live. So next up, you've set up, so far we've set up your personal LinkedIn profile that tells your story. You've set up your company page that represents your brand and your mission. And next, how can we become a thought leader on LinkedIn? So just as we talked about earlier, 59% of professionals say they get updates on leaders via their social media feed. A headline from this time last year, where business leaders from around the globe saw a 90% increase in engagement of their posts on LinkedIn. So people are really interacting more and more, especially through COVID. As business leaders, becoming a thought leader means that you can grow your network, you can get yourself known to new audiences and increase those opportunities with those highly engaged audiences. And so the biggest part about becoming a thought leader is establishing a community and starting a conversation, right? So what does that mean? How do we do that? When creating conversations that matter, new perspectives are highly valued. So according to decision makers, these are the top characteristics of high value thought leadership content. Content that explores potentially challenging or new opportunities that I haven't considered before. It points out things that I may have overlooked. And it also includes guidance on how to respond to the issues that have been raised and how to reach you in those instances. And when thinking about an influential thought leader on LinkedIn, we've come up with 3 key steps and some examples for each. So define your persona, develop a content plan, and connect with the Australian public virtually and interactively. Number 1, define your persona. So what tone suits you best? Visionary, evangelist, guide, mentor? Don't worry, we'll be supplying you with this slide, so yeah, you'll be able to reflect on it later. So going into each of these personas now, here we've got the Prime Minister of Canada, the visionary who focuses is around government, different programs, international trade. You can explore his profile in your own time and get to know his type of tone. And then next we have Jacinda Ardern, the evangelist. Of course, being the Prime Minister of New Zealand, her focus is on New Zealand current affairs, leadership, and also women in business. Another great one to check out, particularly for her rather controversial posts challenging the norm, posting about balancing motherhood and her career. Love following Jacinda. Next, we have Sheikh Mohammed, the guide, who tells a really compelling story to his audience through his posts, always including videos and photos. And then finally, we have Mary Ang, Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade at the Parliament of Canada. Mary uses opportunity to advocate as a mentor for Canada's small businesses and entrepreneurs. So thinking about step 2, developing a content plan. Members typically want to hear from you on 3 main topics: on your industry, you, and your position. So looking at your culture, your projects, and what you're proud of. Creating a balance across these is important, but don't feel pressured to start all 3 at once. Take things step by step, build your confidence with what you're most familiar with, as a starting point. Stick to what you know, share tips, failures, ideas, and don't wait for it to be perfect, just share. Again, that balance between what your audience cares about, what you want to communicate, and what makes you you. So I'm no expert in becoming a thought leader, but LinkedIn has various blog posts and articles that can help you along the way. But my best advice is just taking a look at some thought leaders that you can learn from. So if anybody has some key thought leaders that they enjoy on LinkedIn, feel free to share the names with your peers in the chat. All of those things are really helpful in just building up that encouragement and just understanding different people's styles. So step 3 is connecting with people. It's really a personal preference, who you connect with and how you connect with audiences. In terms of connecting physically with people over LinkedIn, the bottom line is the more people you connect with, the more companies that you follow, the more that you interact, means more opportunity you're connected to. But you don't have to connect with every single person that sends you an invite. And I think as well, like some etiquette advice that I have, when you're connecting with somebody that you don't know, I think it's really important just to write them a little message as to why you're connecting, maybe how you know them or don't know them. So maybe it's just that, you're really looking forward to understanding a little bit more about X because they specialize, they're an SME in a particular area or whatever it may be. A great relatively new feature on LinkedIn is LinkedIn Stories. Thinking about how you can engage with audiences and interact. I like to think of LinkedIn Stories kind of like a professional version of Facebook Stories, allowing you the opportunity to share your professional experiences and paint a picture of your authentic self to add to that brand and identity piece. Another great way to keep up to date with also your connections, get a feel for their day, and also connect to the public. Right. Now, any question? No, there's no questions in the chat box. So I'm going to be handing over to Gavin now for the next few minutes, who's going to give me a little bit of a break from talking and take us through an activity. And thereafter, we'll have some time for some more questions. I'm going to mute myself now. I'll hand over to you, Gavin.
Okay, thanks, Desiree. So what we thought is just for ourselves to think of this practically, like Desiree's gone through some tips and tricks and tools and what LinkedIn offers there, but it's also some tips and tricks that we can use in engagement more broadly. So to get the thinking going, this short exercise is just to look at the value set and think about your community of practice or perhaps your own career, and think about what the values are that you want that community of practice or yourself as a professional to show as what it's really about, what you or your community of practice is really about. So just in your notes or on a pad on your desk, just think about those values and identify a couple, up to 5, as a starting point to think about, well, what are you about? Because that authentic self, as Desiree is described to us all, is essentially one of the real keys to engagement. So think about that. And then the next thing we'd like you to do before Desiree brings the presentation to a close is we've heard a lot of interesting points and tips and facts that Desiree has done in a pretty short period of time. And so in the context of what we're all about, is there anything that has particularly resonated or has been an aha moment for you? Just pop those in the chat. We'll give you a couple of minutes to reflect on both those quick activities. So think about your values, what your community is about, or if you're thinking about doing more engagement yourself in LinkedIn, think about what those are. Obviously, that's just a guiding list. If it doesn't cover what you or what is relevant to you, just add those terms in. Because as we say in Extension Oz, it's really about the focus, isn't it? So Desiree's given us a lot of interesting stuff to hear about, but it's also, okay, well, how do we apply that? And we need that focus. And Desiree, well, we're suggesting that thinking about the values is a great first step. Okay, obviously you can continue on with that. I'll hand back to Desiree now, and then we'll come back to you at the end just to hear about what learnings you might have that you could share, that, some aha moments, because I think for many of us, myself included, what LinkedIn now offers is very new. Thanks, Desiree.
No worries, thanks, Gavin. Yeah, look, I mean, for me, I was going to just go to questions next. Just in wrap up, I really hope that I was able to help you better understand the power of LinkedIn, what LinkedIn's used for today, and remembering, how quickly our member base changes. We also are developing our platform, changing our platform. There are so many great things available to you, and although I tried to jam a lot into today, there are definitely many more aspects of LinkedIn as well. But hopefully I was able to help you understand how to apply that to your professional brand, and also the different missions that you're working on and great things that you're working on. Yeah, Gavin, I think that's a really great one. That most working professionals across Australia do have a LinkedIn profile today. That's a really great misconception.
So Desiree, there's a point there from Gemma about the engagement point with farmers and agronomists. And, Twitter is a highly used tool in the agricultural sector. And I noticed that in your stats in the agricultural sector, there was I think a 4% on that graph there. Um,
Yeah, no, that's a really, I'm just trying to think back to which slide. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, not saying that that LinkedIn should be the only form of communication that you guys use, but going back to that reach within Australia, it could just be another place that you guys can, you know, come together and collaborate about, you know, a number of different things. Yeah, but interesting that Twitter is being used quite predominantly there.
the points
But
you
I'll leave
made,
that. Sorry.
I was going to say, Desiree, the points you made about the engagement piece, perhaps because our focus is really on engagement, you know, getting timely, relevant, credible information, peer-reviewed information to people in a timely manner. And I guess an aha point for me was the fact that LinkedIn has really switched into more of an engagement piece. And did you say 15 times more information? People are going to LinkedIn 15 more times to engage with information rather than, you know, find contacts or jobs.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, that content engagement is being engaged with 15 times more than a job post, when, you know, traditionally LinkedIn was known for going on there and finding a job, and now it's really known for that collaboration, that communication, that outreach piece. Just reading Jodie's question or comment. LinkedIn could be more to add to the communication and networking with other communities of practice rather than the community of interest.
Felicity's just asking how far down can you drill to get information on engagement. So she says, you know, in agriculture, can you get down to beef numbers, for example?
So we have tools that that you could use as an organisation. For example, LinkedIn Recruiter, whereby you can, if you're trying to search for talent or understand like a talent split, you know, if you have say specific skills that are associated with that type of audience that you're looking for, or job titles, you can put those into LinkedIn Recruiter, and then you can understand what the reach is in that particular area of the country that you're after. So that's one of LinkedIn's paid products, and is primarily used by organisations in talent for hiring. But I do know one of the departments that I work with in Victoria use it to inform policy and to understand that sort of a reach for people in Victoria. So it is possible, absolutely.
Perhaps it would be good for us to see what others are doing in agriculture. So, you know, we might hunt for some company pages in some of the different sectors that are, you know, organisations that are relevant to us, and see how they're going about things. It might be some good examples for ourselves.
That's a really great activity for you to do afterwards, and yeah, and then everyone can sort of share that around. But yeah, I encourage you to do that, absolutely. And then yeah, also just finding people, well-known people that you know in agriculture, finding their profiles, looking at what they're talking about, what they're sharing, engaging with their posts. It's just all about getting that awareness piece out. Any other questions? We've done pretty good for time.
Yep. So anyone, if you want to come off mute and ask it rather than the chat box, please feel free. Otherwise, it's been recorded, so we will put this up on the website recordings in the Community Practice YouTube channel, so people can access the recording later. And also we'll make the points from the slide decks available, those key points, which are tips that can be used in any form of online engagement, but obviously are particularly relevant for LinkedIn. If there's nothing further, I'll first thank Nikki, and I think Nikki's busy with family stuff today, so that's unfortunate, but she really made this happen. And when we investigated and we're looking at her LinkedIn work. And then she suggested, well, you know, we could broaden this out. And then really must thank Desiree, who's spent a fair bit of time talking to us about and understanding what we do with Extension Office Communities of Practice. So thank you, Desiree, for doing that and then giving up your time today.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure, guys. Yeah, thank you so much for being engaged and yeah, just giving us all of your time for 45 minutes. And yeah, thanks for letting me be a part of one of your sessions. It was great. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Desiree. And just a reminder, we're going to do a refresher on search engine optimization as part of the TWG meeting, and also on Google Analytics, which is popping up. We met with the Victorian Communities of Practice yesterday, and I think it probably applies across the board. It'd be handy to, as we're delving into Google Analytics. So check out your calendar invites and I'll send out some reminders. And thank you, Desiree. I'm sure we'll be in touch again. Thank you all.
Thanks, Kevin.